North Queensland, Central Queensland area. We've done a series of project planning and grant writing workshops before this, but what it turned out is that, hi Emma, is that there was a lot of people that were had not really done a lot of online applications. So what we wanted to do is actually try and go through one specifically. So I have a grant to help people do RADF grant applications. So obviously part of my outcome is to try and get as many people to apply for RADF funding through the South Burnett arm of it. But obviously the outcomes and all of that, most of the Smarty grant applications are going to be the same anyway. So, and it's also a good opportunity for networking too. So some of you guys up further would be, wanting to come to the South Burnett, I'm sure. You never know. Well, we know there might be opportunities in Fiji's that we don't know about yet, mate.
That's so true, so true.
We could take the peanut pantomime to Fiji. I was supposed to go to Fiji in February, but there was a cyclone, so I ended up going to Vanuatu, which was kind of a little bit disappointing. But it was interesting. It was a cruise ship, which I'd never done before, and we will be seriously considering doing that activity again. But excellent. We might take more books, maybe. So yeah. So who else have we got here? Some more J's, lots of J's. With So 4 others. Who have we got here? Hello, Joy, Julie, Kelly, Linda, Marty, Matt. So Studio Art Show. Put your mic on, honey. Who are you? She's getting the microphone.
Okay.
There's Joy. Hi, Joy.
I'm here now. Yes.
Good.
Linda's there as well. So
yes, I've got an L there, so I can see Linda.
Yeah.
So has everyone worked out where your microphone buttons are?
Yes.
Oh, it works. Yep.
There we go. Hello.
Hello. I'm Liz. I don't know why I wrote down Studio Artie Show.
Oh, that's all right, Liz. We were just wondering. So where are you coming in from?
I'm in Kingaroy.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh,
but
okay.
Now I have a French accent. I'm actually from Paris.
See, now my French has completely gone out the window because I'm in this mode. That's okay. All right. Well, what I might do is I'm going to start. Now, I'm going to record this. So I just thought I'd let everyone know that I'm going to be recording it. So, yes. We'll try not to swear and all that sort of stuff for people. Recording. There we go. Start recording. Make sure everyone is ready. So, all right, starting the recording. Cool. So, welcome everybody that is here. There'll probably be a few more people that will pop in. I'm coming to you from Waka Waka land. I'm on the edge, but yeah. So that's where the traditional owners of the South Burnett region, as far as the paperwork is concerned. Anyway, we won't go to that. Thank you everyone for joining me from all over the place, including Fiji. Today, what we're going to do is actually go through a RADF application. That's the South Burnett Regional Council's RADF application. This is going to be similar to other applications for RADF because of the questions. All of the questions are relatively the same. So for those that haven't been part of the workshop series that we've been doing, we did do some project planning. We did workshops on what grants were available, how to write project plans, which then feed into grant applications. We also then, last week, we had a workshop. So, Linda, did you want to turn your microphone off, please? There we go. So on Saturday, we actually did a workshop, one of the last in-person workshops in Nanango, and that was about compliance. So we went through things like, yes, you've got your grant, and we touched on why we did project planning, but we also touched on things like if you apply for a tree, you can't go and buy a car, that kind of stuff. So just a little bit of compliance and what is your responsibility as a person who has received a grant and what needs to be done, and touched on reporting and that kind of stuff. So who has had a chance to actually have a look at the South Burnett Regional Arts Development Fund page? So what I'm going to do is so I haven't used Google Meet. Hi, Matt. Have you got a question, or you're just saying yes, yes? Okay. I am going to try and share this screen. So I haven't used Google Meet before. but we will do sharing of the screen. And if you've got any questions, or if I realized I was speaking very quickly, I will slow down. That would be my brain. Let me go into screen sharing, which is another button on here somewhere. There it is, this one here. So I'm going to share the entire screen, so you might see yourselves for a moment, but we're going to go to the South Burnett Regional Council's Regional Arts Development Fund page. Okay, so can everyone, hang on, I need to do that again. Entire screen, allow, there we go. So can you see the kids on the bikes now?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Right, so if you're on that page, it will go this, and again, this will be similar to other local councils' regional arts development front page grant pages. There, everyone has the same kind of agreement with Arts Queensland of what you had to deliver, because that is a grant. So RADF is actually a grant as well. So if you've got that page, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's the guidelines. Now, when we were going through all of the workshops previously, I reiterated many times that you must read the guidelines. If you have any questions on the guidelines, to actually speak to your RADF officer at your local council. So there might be nuances in the guidelines that are relative to your local council, because each council will have a different arts policy. Some may have arts, culture and heritage policy, some may have a strategy, some may have nothing at all, some of them may be completely outdated. So it's always really good to touch base with the person at council who will actually be helping you and reviewing your grant application. So on these pages, there's usually a hyperlink to whatever it is. So there's your South Burnett Regional Council. That would be my photo there. I haven't looked at this since I was at council. So for those who are not aware, I was at council for 6 months last year doing a lot of arts, culture and heritage policy. And a delivery framework. So you can go through here, it'll tell you pretty much all of the things that you need to know about your RADF grant application. Support material, assessment. Now, this is really important here, additional assessment criteria. This is kind of what they're looking for. When they're looking at your grant, these are the things that you need to make sure that you cover very, very clearly in your grant application. Again, these are things that if you need clarification, talk to your RADF officer at your council. They're going to be able to help you. So I would suggest that a lot of councils are not reaching their quota of grant applications because of the challenges of actually putting things together, and sometimes in timeframes, and also in planning stuff, which is why I did all that project planning stuff with the workshops that we've done. So yeah, have a good look through those grant applications. The South Burnett Regional Council has two. There's the Quick Response Grant, which you can see here, which is a $1,000 grant, and that has a 2-week turnaround. So that means you put your application in, which again is a Smarty Grants application online. It gets then collated, because it's a single grant, it goes to the assessment committee. So the RADF Assessment Committee, the South Burnett Regional Council, has an advisory committee, and they're the ones that assess the grant. It also then has to go to the councillors for endorsement as well, but it doesn't have to go to a council meeting because it's a quick response grant. The other grant that they offer is the minor funding, which is up to $3,000. That takes a bit longer. So when we talk about timelines, this one can be up to 3 months. Again, there's 2 rounds. The quick response grant, sorry, going back to that, is available at any time. So if you suddenly realise that there's an opportunity that $1,000 would be very handy for, you can apply for that at any time, as long as there's still funding available. Again, if there's any questions, contact council. The second, so category 2 is minor funding. That's up to $3,000. Again, it's detailing very clearly the mandatory supporting material that you need to have. 2 letters of creative professionals. Now, most of this is across the board for every local council, because it's the criteria that's required from Arts Queensland for the RADF funding. Public liability insurance. This is a big one. Certificate of currency. So that's your insurance. Any other supporting material. So when if you have a project plan that we've been talking about in the workshops we've done in the South Burnett, that's where you put your supporting material to value add to your application. Then there's a third category for South Burnett. This is in May. Now, this is for a $15,000 grant, and this is for regionally significant project. So that covers right from Black Butte all the way to Proston, all the way through. That's a new category and was instigated, I thought would be a good idea, and the committee approved it. So yeah, a larger grant up to $15,000. So that's also a really good opportunity if there's an organisation that covers the whole of the region. Again, some of the local councils may have larger grants, but I'm not quite sure of you guys that are up in Longreach and Winton and everything. Check with the council. So they're the 3 programs for South Burnett. So going back to this page, to apply for this funding, click here. So this is where we go to the Smarty Grants page. So I'm just going to go back to this screen to see if everyone's all okay. So if there's any questions, it should ding. So no one's sent me a ding, so I'll just keep going. South Burnett Regional Council. This page has all of the grants available through the South Burnett Regional Council. You can see there's a community grants program. Now that can be for creative projects, but that can be for anything. So it's more like a sponsorship. They treat it a little bit more like sponsorship, but you still need to provide invoices and you still need to do an acquittal report. That again is up to $3,000. So that's more an event type of thing. So sporting clubs like the South Burnett Western Performance Club, come and try days, little festivals, community activities, that kind of stuff is the community grants program. Again, because we're going through a Smarty Grants application, it's all very similar. So we'll go through that. Now, Joy knows about the Community Hall Insurance Grant. So that's for communities in the South Burnett who have community halls. Councillor Discretionary Fund is at the what's the right word? Anyway, that's obvious. Councillor Discretionary Fund. Even if a councillor in the South Burnett says, I'll give you $500 for your organisation, you must put in an application. It doesn't just happen. So Elite Performance Youth Grants is obvious. Indigenous Affairs Fund. So that's not necessarily for Indigenous organisations. It's for Indigenous initiatives and First Nations activities. Supports their policy for council. Quick response grants, we just quickly spoke about. RADF Round 2 School Students Awards. So if we're just on that page, I'm going to log in. So I have logged into Smarty Grants. So I'm going back to this other page to see if everyone's got a Smarty Grants account. Have we got a Smarty Grants account, everybody? I'm sure a lot of people do. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to log into here. Now, this is fairly obvious submission. So again, go through this, make sure that you're pretty comfortable that you've got an account. You're obviously there if you've got an account. Go through applicants, navigating through the form, saving draft applications. So we'll go through some of this to help people as we go through. Now, I'm logged in. I'm going to start a submission. Now, I'm going to use the fake one that I did for the Saturday workshop. So I log in. I thought I was already logged in, but there you go. New submission. So you've started your submission. That number here, RADF 02R2, is your reference number. That will be sent to the email address that you have registered in Smarty Grants. As I've said before, make sure that that email address is a generic. So if you're an artist, yes, it's your email address. If it's an organisation, make sure it's an email address that's not an individual's personal email address. So if something, if there's a grant application that takes 3 months and that committee member decides that they don't want to be on the committee anymore and they're not speaking to anybody, and we all know this happens, you don't have access to, easy access to all the grant applications that they've applied for. So your organisation should have a generic admin at your organisation, or secretary should be a generic email. So make sure that that's an email that can be accessed by the committee at least, or the grants officer as well. So next page. So for those that did the project planning and has done stuff with me before, you'll know that I tend to do the document before I do the grant application. But one of the good things is that if you have a Smarty Grants account, you can actually go in and you can look at all of this stuff before it's due. So I highly recommend that you do this when you read those guidelines, is actually pop in to the grant online form and have a read through everything that they're asking so that you're aware that you're not going into here blind the day before the grant's due, which is not recommended in any way, shape or form. To do a grant the day before is actually have a look through and populate the parts of the grant that's really easy straight away. So the things that you can do, yes, I've understood the RADF guidelines. Confirm eligibility. I confirm these things. So yes, we won't have to read through. Are you eligible to apply for this grant? Yes, tick yes. Then you can go down. Have you received previous RADF grant from South Burnett? I'm going to be saying yes because I have. Have you recruited this grant? I'm going to say yes because it makes it easier. Now you can see this button here, little green button, save progress. That is going to be on every Smarty Grants online application. I highly recommend you do that as well. So if you suddenly get a phone call or the dog starts barking and you forget and something happens, you may lose the information that you've got in there. So that's the first page. Next page. Applicant details. So you can see there's your application number there. So that's automatically populated into Smarty Grants, your application number. So I'm going to be an individual. And then you just populate this. So this is the kind of stuff you can do you know, when you first go through the application. So it's recommended, well, I recommend that you do some of this basic stuff so at least you're underway. So it's a bit like, you know, eating an elephant one bite at a time. So go through, do all this primary application. There we go. So that'll self-populate. So some of the people here tonight haven't done an online application before. Some of you will be very experienced at this. So if there are any suggestions too when we get to the end of this form, please feel free to contribute. So it's the same postal address. My phone number, 0417 634 981, and it's a straight, you don't have to put spaces or anything in it, email address, MELAE. So because this is an individual, this is why this is my personal email. But if it was an organisation, it would be the secretary. I recommend that it's the secretary at your group so that that is an accessible email to anyone. Website, I don't have one. If you do have a Facebook page but don't have a website, you can put something in there. So I won't fill that in. So artist eligibility. What is your career stage? So this is if you are an artist. So this has come up in these questions because I've said an individual. So I'm going to tick that. And then we go through here. Artists and lyrics, blah, blah, blah. So you choose which one of those is most appropriate, if not more. I recommend probably as many as you sort of can. I'm just going to do those for the sake of showing you the boxes. What I'm thinking is what I'll do is I'll actually go back and then do an organisation one of this as well, if that's helpful. So again, I always say progress right there, just in case. It does save sometimes when you go to the next page, but it depends on how that backend has been set to. Sometimes it can be, because I've managed the backend of Smarty Grants as well, I can change things. So on to the next page. Does your organisation have an ABN? Now I'm going to say everyone has to have an ABN to do grant applications, unless you're being auspiced by someone else. So yes. If you don't know your ABN, see this link here, that will take you, and it will take us and we'll show it. It'll take you to search ABN, and I can go like this. No, it's not going to do that. Why is it doing that? Hang on, I've just realised that doesn't go to the right thing. Anyway, okay. I'll have to tell ABN search. You can go ABN. Sorry. Yep. Was there a question? No. So ABN lookup is business.gov.au. So I'll put MELANIE, and that will bring up your ABN. So there I am there. So yeah, there we go. Cut, paste. We're going here. Yeah. ABN. So once you put that in there, you can look up and it'll bring it up. So if you do not have an ABN, you have to have another organisation auspice that grant. But most people should have an ABN by this stage. Insurance. So everyone who applies to this grant must have a public liability insurance. It doesn't ask for anything else besides public liability. So yes, it's going to be engaged with the public, upload the file. So this is where, when I was talking about filing and that sort of stuff with project planning, this is where if you've got a folder online, this is where you keep stuff. So if I was going to upload a file, it will take me to my desktop and then it will take me to my folders. So let's just say I've got it in downloads. That's where I would keep it. And then you open it and it will upload. I won't do that. Public liability certificate of currency. So that's your. Oh, they've got that twice. Okay. Anyway, save progress. Next page. How are we going? There's no questions? Cool. Okay, great. Thanks, Matt. For these grants, all I have is just a consultant training public liability, which is about $23 a month or something. So for my horse stuff, that's a whole different story, but we won't go down that for a year insurance question. Okay, so we're there. Next page. Oh, responses required. Which response? What have I done? Oh, okay. So we go. No. So that's what it will do if you're new to this. If you haven't answered a question that needs a response, it will tell you, obviously, as you can see clearly there. Please contact insurance company. Oh, I'll just tick that. Setting we do both. Clever. Save progress. Next page. It's going to take me to the next page. Yes. No, it's not going to take me to the next page. Oh, I'll upload a picture of anything. What do I do here? Picture of a horse. There you go. South Burnett Regional Council. So the internet will be a bit slower because I'm on NBN and doing a stream at the same time. So it's interesting. So the way, see how that wouldn't let me onto the next page? That's actually been set up at the back end to do that by the council. A lot of Smarty grants will let you go through it without doing that. I might contact council about that. That's just silly. Uploading. Sorry, guys. Okay. File is uploaded. Here's a picture of a horse. All right. Next page. It should let me go there now. Right. Okay. We're not getting auspiced, so that can go to that would pop up if I'd clicked yes on the auspice, that would have come up with the information that you would have previously put in about your organisation. So they'll ask that question. So project details. So for those who were at project planning, this is where those little project plans that we were developing, this is where it kicks into making life very easy. So let me say. So project title, what was it? The big black butt blues bash, whatever. So that short description. So this is where you go, it is blah. So that's that project introduction that we're talking about in project planning. So you've already written this in a document. So for those who haven't been in the project planning, essentially it was a Word document that's answering all these questions that you can edit and proof and get proofread before you get to this stage. And it's a cut and paste. So when I was talking at the other workshops, you can see here it says 100 words recommended. This might actually not let you do more than 100, but we'll have a look. Oh, that's not going to work either. Anyway, let me find something. So short project description. Where will this project take place? So what towns? Project start date. So remember the project start date. When you've read the guidelines, it will tell you approximately when this project will be announced, when the successful funding will be announced. Make sure that your project start date is going to be after that. So if the funding is going to be, it's going to be 26. We don't want that far. So we'll just say 31st of May and the end date, and that's part of that timeline that we also talked about in our project planning. So we'll just say August. Again, you can see they're going to make you put that in. So you can see here between the 8th to the 11th, 24, and so they haven't updated that either. So some councils are a bit more on top of their RADF forms than others. Art form. So again, work out what your project is, and you should have worked out what your project is before you sort of get to this stage, but let's say that it's multi-arts. South Burnett Regional Council priority, local delivery and participation in the arts. So with mine, I actually made it technical and professional skills and development for these workshops. So these key priorities, this is going to be in your guidelines as well, but they've actually amplified it in this application. So when you've done your project plan or talk to your RADF officer, work out how your project fits in with either of these. So to support local creative to deliver cultural activities or technical professional skills development. So a lot of them will be in the $3,000 ones will support local creative to deliver cultural activities. So for example, Joy, we're talking about, you know, the workshops to the mural, it would be local delivery and participation. But Kelly, when we were talking about you doing some art therapy, you know, art therapy workshops and that sort of stuff, that would be this one here, the technical and professional skills development, because that's helping you with what we were talking about, your career. That second one, a lot of the quick response grants, the $1,000 ones fits into that category. So they like to use that $1,000 for workshops to send local artists and artisans to professional development workshops outside the region so that those skills come back. They will not, and I know that they have had application where they, where a community group wanted to use the RADF grant to go and look at a production at QPAC as professional skills development. That wasn't approved for kind of obvious reasons. So make sure that it really meets the guidelines. Outline how the project will achieve the priority selected above. So again, make sure that you've done a bit of a brief or a blurb of this on a Word document before you get to this stage. So you're cutting and pasting. And you can actually, what I do is you can take that and you can copy it. So copy, go to a Word document. So I open up a Word document, paste it in there, and then put that it's 250 words. So then when you go blah, 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 so people who know Word will know all about this. So just say that's your copy. You can go into review and you can actually do word count there, and it will tell you how many words. Some grants will actually give you characters. You have a limited amount of characters, if that makes sense. So if we go back to here, how will the project benefit you, the community, and artists, cultural workers? In this question, this is where you've already, you know, detailed who it will benefit, and we went through this at project planning for those who weren't there. So local business, so how will it benefit local business? How will it benefit the community? How will it benefit you as an individual? And how will it benefit other individuals? Those kind of answers. But make sure it responds to the guidelines, what the guidelines are looking for. Again, it tells you that it's 250 words. And I'll just do this so that we can go to the next page. For those that, again, in the project planning, we talked about marketing. How will you acknowledge council, South Burnett Regional Council and Arts Queensland? That's for things like logos on marketing collateral, flyers, posters, acknowledgement on Facebook posts. We talked about every time that there's an opportunity to whack something on social media to do that. Hang on a second, I've got to stop my dog from growling. Can you stop, please? So yeah, any opportunity that you can put a post on social media saying we've applied for this grant, wish us luck, is always good. But make sure that, again, we talked about photos being entertaining. It's social media, so make sure that it's not just really boring, and always put a photo. And if it's a photo of someone that's in the group, tag them as well, so you get a little bit more of that. But back to this question, how you acknowledge, so media releases, marketing, so make sure that you put down all of the marketing that you're going to do. This council in particular really appreciates councillors being invited to an event, and for this particular council, we do have a mayor that loves things in pink, so very much the social media opportunities will go down really well with this council. I'm not sure of other councils, but this is what's happening here in the South Burnett at the moment. So let me do that. So we'll just go logos. So logos are important. With the councils, this council, you actually have to fill out a form to say that you won't muck around with the logo and that sort of stuff. So that's always important if you get that grant, making sure that you're really aware of what requirements the council has as well. You will also have to have an Arts Queensland logo and the RADF tagline on everything too. So that will be part of your agreement. If the project is being held outside the South Burnett, how will the South Burnett community benefit? So so Kelly, we'll go back to you. If you're going out to do a workshop or a weekend or some training outside the South Burnett, that's where you say, I will be improving my skills as a art therapy practitioner. I'll be bringing back, and these are the opportunities that I'll be providing the local community. So does that make sense? Yep. Right, next page. Project management. So yeah, so it's a fairly detailed project plan. So again, this is why if you do a project plan, a lot of this stuff has already happened. Right, so what are the major benefits expected from your project? So in the project plan, that's going to be outcomes. We talked about numbers and outcomes and how many people will be there, what sort of media, that sort of stuff. So this says impact. How many people will attend? If we look to say it's going to be an event and you expect 500 people, if you know you're going to get 500 people, put 500. If you think, oh, I might only get 250, remembering that their assessment of the success of your grant is going to be looking at these figures. So if you say 500 and 5 people turn up, you have to make sure that you've got a really clear understanding of why that happened when you do the acquittal. And if something like that does happen, so just imagine a cyclone came through and you proceeded with the event, this is where you talk to the RADF person before the event and say, look, this is what we're going to do. What do you suggest? So make sure that you've had that disclaimer beforehand. So if something does go a little bit pear-shaped, the council already knows, or the RADF officer already knows that there might be a problem. How many arts workers will be employed? So 500 event attendees. I'm one arts worker. Now that doesn't have to be in capitals, that's just how it works. Quality. Does your project provide quality arts and culture incentives based on local priorities? That's where you do a little bit of a cut and paste of the guidelines. Does your project, so don't just put yes, explain how it does. It does. And that's again why it's part of that project plan. Will your project target any specific groups? Does your project contribute to broader outcomes such as health and well-being? And again, don't just put yes. They want to know how and when and who. That's, if you have a look here, it doesn't have a word limit there, so you can actually probably put a lot more there. So a lot of the outcomes are also about community resilience. But for those of the people between council and Ingham at the moment, community resilience would be pretty handy right now in recovery. So luckily it does a spell check for us here, resilient. Visibility. Have you considered other options for external partners to assist with funding the project? So again, don't just put yes, put so this is where you say application to Stanwell for part funding of this project. In-kind support from local businesses for materials, etc. So does that make sense? Yes. So how will you capture feedback and results from the RADF funded activity, e.g. survey, emails, attendance? So what I always do, and those who attended the workshop, there is a hard copy survey provided at the end of each workshop. Then you can put insights into Facebook, insights on social media. Yeah, any other feedback. So have a think about how you'll get that. So if you have a look, sometimes in Arts Queensland, they will actually stipulate that you have to have a certain percentage of positive feedback from the people attending your event. So some of you guys will have done Arts Queensland and Australia Council funding before, and they make sure that you really have to prove your worth. So we're at the milestones. How are we going on there in virtual land? Good. So again, key project stage. We went through this again in our project planning. So key project stage, you can put funding application to RADF, and you can put the date there. So you can make that, say, put 28th of February. Notification of funding, and that's going to be April. We haven't put 1st of April. That could be an omen. So this is where you say, you know, engage artists, and then from that point, I would put approximate dates. If you do have definite dates of things, then put that in. But artists and commence workshops. So you can make it a little bit fluid, that project stage, so that you do have a little bit of leeway if something blows out a week or so. So that one, I'd say, you know, maybe May. So just say May 2025. So at least you've got, if something goes a little bit wrong, you've given yourself a little bit of a buffer. Blah, blah, blah. So any of those milestones. So, you know, launch of unveiling. I'm crossing over a couple of projects we're all working on at the moment. Mural, November, say, if we don't have a date, but just say it's part of a festival. So just say it's part of the Black Butt Abo Fest. So, you know, so unveiling mural at festival. So that could be the 11th of September. Project finish, project concludes is a good timeline thing. So that's the 30th of September. Now, this grant, you have to have your acquittal done within 6 weeks. Always put the acquittal in here, because that's actually a really good reminder for you as the person doing it to when acquittal to be submitted to the council, and put that date. So whatever that 6 weeks after that, 30th September, October, so 15th of November. So that'll all be on your project plan for those who are on top of it and have a project plan. Outline the steps you have taken to address the issues of workplace health and safety, copyright and relevance. So blue card is you answer the blue card question here. Blue card for all artists working with children as part of the project. And so you can put your insurance here, appropriate insurance. So workplace health and safety, risking, so risk management plan can be risk management plan. So if you already have some of this stuff, make sure that you actually mention it here. Will be a bit developed. Excuse my typing, blah, blah, blah. That sort of stuff.
Melanie?
Yeah.
Yeah, Marty here. So
Yes,
doing what
Marty.
you're doing just there, do you have to
Yes.
do you have to elaborate on that, or is it fine just dot
No,
points?
I've never elaborated on it, because I'm just trying to think, one of the last ones. So yeah, it's always been in the project plan, you know what I mean? But let me see if I can find a RADF grant after we do this. So yeah, I usually do dot points. So you probably assess grants too, you know, it depends on if they need more information, they will usually ask. So again, for some of the people that may not be as experienced, these are the questions that you would ask that RADF officer. So if it was me as the RADF officer, I'd go dot points, but you never know. There could be someone at the other end that might want more information. So that's why I always highly recommend that you make contact with that person at the other end. So that's the kind of question that's really good, Marty, for everyone to know that sometimes dot points are good, but yeah, it really depends on how much time as well. So remembering some of these RADF assessment committees, they're doing it voluntarily. A lot of them are actually working full time. So I know that the RADF assessment committee in the South Burnett, they would go, yeah, blue card, appropriate insurance is in place. So is in place. Risk management plan we've developed. And so if you've got APRA license, so yeah, APRA, there's still a license, isn't it? Do you paper? Yeah, paper, whatever. I can't really remember off the top. Yeah, etc. So yeah, dot point. I mean, I don't think it's really necessary to go into a long-winded sort of, this is all of the stuff that we've got, because if they want to see your risk management plan, they'll ask for it. Do you think that works?
Oh yeah, I couldn't think of anything worse than receiving that many applications, and then they've got 400 words of jargon when
Yeah.
it could have been dot points. Because really, that's all it is. Why are you doing this? What are we offering everyone? Everyone's writing the exact same crap in there, and they've got to waffle through it. Like, honestly, it is utter rubbish. You just need to say what we're doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
So
like
that's
the
what I'm
rest of it.
saying.
What are you providing? How are you doing it? How are people going to feel good at the end of it? Who cares?
That's right. Yeah.
Either say yes
Well,
or no.
I mean, that's the thing. Yeah. Well, with the project planning workshops, what I've said to people is that they need to, if they've done a project plan, which is just a really bit of an overarching document, that, you know, can be big, can be small, is to make sure that that's actually given to someone to read that's got nothing to do with your project, so that they can read it and go, okay, I know exactly what you're doing. Yep, that makes sense, because you can fall down the jargon, you can fall down the policy and the cut and pasting kind of avenue. But again, especially with RADF grants, you pretty much know who's on the assessment committee if you're a local. So, you know, like the South Burnett, we all know the people that are on the committee. We know the councillors. You can have a really good open conversation with them and say, what are you really after? This is what we're planning on doing. How can we make it better? All of that kind of stuff. When you go to these bigger grants like Creative Australia and, you know, the Arts Council sort of stuff, they're looking for different things. I don't do a lot of those grants anymore because I don't feel comfortable with some of the ways that they want to see things delivered. Does that make sense diplomatically? You know, I want grassroots, really stuff that's actually going to help communities. So, and this is where the Regional Arts Development Fund works, because it's local council driven. So yeah, so dot points, I'm a good dot point person. So when we're doing the project plans, for those who've got them, you'll notice that when I go objectives, they're all in dot points. So outcomes, they're all in dot points. It's not big long-winded sentences. So what are we going to achieve? What's the goal? What are we going to achieve? How are we going to do it? So again, with that who, what, when, where, and why, those are the things you need to answer in a grant, really. We'll go on to the next page because I can't remember what that is. Our budget. We touched on this last Saturday with a few of you that were there, and we talked about how some of these forms work. So just say we're asking for 3,000. So this is another thing I recommend as well, is if you've got a grant opportunity that's worth 3,000, I highly recommend applying for the 3,000. Some may or may not agree with me. It depends on your project. So if you've got a project that the in-kind, and with this, hopefully we'll go through this, is that it's easier for a funding body to reduce the amount they can give you if they think that that project is worthy, but they just don't have enough money. But they will very, very rarely, I've once in my entire experience of writing grants of 30 years, have someone said, we'll give you more money than you applied for. And that was David Littleproud, and that was the Queen's Jubilee. So we applied for 7.5 and we got 15 because he knew the project, but he'd already received project plans for other stuff, and we deliver other things. So it's and again, that was a relationship with him. So yeah, so this is not self-populated. So total funding requested 3,000. Total project cost. So ideally, it's at least 50%. So you're applying for 50%. So the project cost total at least should be 6,000. And for those that we were still talking a little bit how that in-kind funding kind of stuff worked, we were still talking about that a little bit on Saturday. This may clear up a little bit of this. We also talked about this. Can you deliver this project if you only receive partial funding? That's a discussion that you need to have with your committee. So if you do not get that 3,000, are you still going to get this project up and running? Some of you who are experienced, I have never worked out whether a yes or no to that question is going to be advantageous to your application. So I've always recommended that you apply for two grants for kind of the same project, because you've got a 50-50 chance. RADF, you've got a higher percentage of chance. Things like the Community Benefit Gambling Fund, if you're in regional rural Queensland, you've got a higher chance of getting that funding than if you're applying for a project in Ascot or Hamilton, for example. So this is a yes or no is going to be completely at your discretion, and also the decision. If you don't get the funding, will it actually happen? So this is, we talked about how things that are self-populated. So all of this, see where it says confirmed funding amount, this will be calculated here. Total funding income amount, this. So if we go income description, So that's going to be, just say you've got ticket sales. There's a drop down here. Earned income sales. Confirmed funding. That's going to be unconfirmed because you haven't had the event yet, right? So if you're selling 100 tickets at $20 a ticket, that's what? Is that right? Yes. Yeah. $2,000. And I would put a note here. So this is where you get to say things like, this is our estimated minimum number of people that will attend. I mean, of 2,000 people, that's probably a rather large event. So make sure that you put all of the income. So you've again done a budget offline. You've done a budget in a template, or you've actually worked all of this stuff out before you get to this point. We'll just go. So see how that's calculated. Total income amount here, 2,000. Then you go to project expenditure. So expenditure, let's just say it's going to be artist fees. Again, it has a drop down, and we'll say just 2,000. We'll make that 1,000 actually. You can here, you can put the artist name if you want. Name, Steve Quote. Again, this should have be calculated. So see how that's only 1,000. So that's cash expenditure. So there must be a in-kind here. Oh, they haven't given us an in-kind option. Again, yeah, this is by going through the form beforehand, because I haven't looked at the new form. So let's say that that's 1,000. So see how that didn't work. So have a look at the next page in a second to see if that actually fixes itself up with an in-kind. Attach file. So this is where you attach your quotes. So what I do with quotes is that I actually get all the quotes and I put them in one document and then PDF that one document. So you're not uploading a multitude of single documents. You're uploading one kind of file. Is that going to give us in-kind support? No. Okay, so going back to this page, it hasn't given us an in-kind support budget line. So we're going to put that here, in-kind support, income. And that's going to be venue hire in-kind. So they've given you a venue hire in-kind, but you can make that other income. And in-kind support, you could probably, if it's going to be volunteer hours, you can pretty much say that it's confirmed if you've got agreement of the committee and it's in minutes. And then, so just say that's 1,000 in ticket sales and your in-kind support is 1,000. That will then should balance, there we go. So that'll balance that total income. So your total income and expenditure should be exactly the same. So we'll just do the administration. Marketing, that'll do, that's 1,000. And I'll put volunteer hours here. So again, other grants will actually ask you to separate your in-kind and your cash expenditure. So this has come to, the response is more than the maximum, zero maximum. No, it says 0, but then you won't. Let's go. So progress, let's see if it fixes itself up. Yes, it did. All right, next page. On internet, there we go. Essential support material. Review the application or required documentation. So attach the following required documents. So you've already uploaded your certificate of currency and your insurance. This is where you need CVs for artists, creative professionals involved in the project. For example, so for a mural project, you would want to be providing a CV. Now, I've had a lot of people and a lot of artists, like Kelly, we were talking about this. This is why you need to have a really good bio and CV. So it's a job interview. Basically, think of you're a small business. So you're an artist, you're a small business, you need to sell yourself, and this is why. You need to have a good CV so that you can actually pitch for work, but you can also show RADF committees that they are going to give money to a professional or an emerging artist that as part of this project. So let's just upload a file because it's not going to let me do anything. And I'll put another horse in there. Do you like, they're my horses, by the way, because everyone can see that. Oh, there's drought. Let me find it. There you go. There's a good example. I didn't. We'll do that again. A letter of confirmation or intent from artist. So that's where the artist says, yes, thank you for the opportunity. I am available to do the mural workshops and can commence as soon as the thing is ready to go. So I'll just upload another black image. Letter of confirmation, key venues is involved in the project. So that's so some of this might actually be council. It might be the King Roy Art Gallery. It could be the hall. It might not necessarily be a letter of confirmation. It might be just a booking thing. So if you're booking a venue, letter of confirmation is going to be, yes, we've confirmed. And that can be in a form of an email. Again, what I do with this, if there's more than one file, I'll put them in a document and then PDF them as one file upload so that there's not all these extra things being floating around. And make sure on the footer of that stuff you describe stuff the page. If they get separated, if you're thinking about what happens at the other end when an admin person out on stuff and then someone else comes along and there's someone else's printed something, if you put on the footer of every page what that is, so grant application for Queensland Dairy Museum page something, it's always a really good idea. So if it does sort of go pear-shaped the other end, there's not an over, people are not printing stuff all over again. Upload new file. So that one's not asking me for a compulsory. 2 letters of creative professional. So again, this is like a referee for a job interview. Project specific target groups for application. So 2 letters, collaborators, organisations, member of projects to target groups. So for those who are doing letters of support, you know that we've talked about this before. People that it's actually going to fit, individuals, and letters of support from someone that you've actually worked with before are quite handy as well. Say, I've worked with this person before. I really support this project, that kind of stuff. Let me upload another generic file. Other relevant supporting documentation. This is where it might be your portfolio, a bit of portfolio. For those who we've been working on project plans, this is where you put that project plan and upload a new file. So that's where you put it. So let's say we've done all of that. Next page, declaration. So this, when you get to this stage, this will be if you've done all of that rest of the stuff, I would hope that you're onto this page at least one day before the closing of the grant. So that when you get to here, so say progress, when you get to this, you've read all of that, they've actually looked at all of the grant stuff, you've done all of that sort of stuff, save it progress. Before you submit that, go to the next page, because on the next page, you can download the PDF of the grant application that you've just done. And what I recommend that you do with that is that you save it, email it, or print it and get someone else that's not involved or someone else to read it and say, does this make sense? Because if you have a grant application, it's getting a bit dark here. If you have a grant application and both of those grant, then you're competing with other people and the score. So some grants are done with a scoring system. If they're the same, so if you both get 15 out of 20, when you start looking at how that grant was written, that could be, well, they weren't, it was a little bit waffly, what we were talking about. This is the dot point. It was clear, concise. They know what they're doing. That might mean the difference between part funding or funding, that sort of stuff. So I think really carefully about how you're actually going to present yourself in that grant, because it might make a difference at some point, if not always. So yeah, this is what that PDF looks like. It goes through. This is where you check that all of that information that you put in there is right. And then it reads okay. So yeah, the short description, all of that sort of stuff. And the reason I say do this the day before is so that either, yes, you can submit it, or do that and then have a break overnight and go back and have a look at it the next day and then submit it. So as we all know, there's going to be typos and everything, but if you give yourself a bit of a rest, so sometimes doing these online grant applications can be really tedious and tiring. So always make sure that you have a break and you have a look with fresh eyes at what you've been doing. So if you're happy with that, then you've printed that out or you've read that through, then you go back to this. You can go back to the previous page. So it's there as well. So go back down to bottom. No, then go back here. So there's a menu on the left-hand side here. So go back to declaration and feedback. blah, blah, blah. Next page, and then that's where you can submit. Should be down the bottom. It probably won't let me because I haven't filled everything in. So see how it tells you to go back, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it says submitted. Oh, that's a different one. But does that make sense? So make sure that you've got all of that. It won't let you submit it unless you've completed all of the mandatory kind of stuff that you've got there. So in Smarty Grants, so Smarty Grants, for those who may not be familiar with it in detail, Smarty Grants is a portal for a lot of organisations for grant applications. Each organisation pays a fee to actually have Smarty Grants facilitate these applications, but the applications go to the council. They don't go to like a Smarty Grants pool. Smarty Grants are only the software provider for these grants. So you can see the big black, white, blue. So these are that's my grant application for these workshops. So I can actually just, so submitted. So you see, I actually submitted it the day before the grant was due. I actually, because I knew the grant officer, when I read through it after it had closed, I realised that there was a mistake in my grant, which wouldn't have affected it that much. But what I did is I contacted them and said, do you mind if I just give you the updated information? And that was fine. So again, going back to that, yes, make sure that you're talking to the person at the other end at council to keep in contact with them. So if you do need to update or anything like that. So what was this due? So my report is due on the 28th of March for these. So that's the funding agreement. So all of this paperwork now is going to be through Smarty Grants. And most organisations that use Smarty Grants will be doing that. So there's the funding agreement. All of this is your file. So this is the funding agreement is just online. I've basically said, yes, 6 workshops, 3 office days. So that was my project summary. Project start date, project cost, condition of funding. So that's online. And I just went through and I went, yes, 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 yes. And that was actually the agreement sorted. Hang on a second. My dog's doing something naughty. Okay, back to that previous page. When you get to your acquittal, next form available. If I go to here, there will be a project report outcome. So this is something that I'll have to do. We'll just go quickly through this. Yeah, so it looks like I'll just have to repopulate all of that kind of stuff. And that is where we were talking about reporting project summary. So that's all populated in there. Again, so remember, those are the project planning, cut and paste. Briefly describe your project. So I said I will. I changed that to I did. All of this comes out of your project plan. So links to website images, other information that demonstrate the project outcomes. So that could be, so see this file here, this is where you do the screenshots of Facebook and you put it in one PDF and upload it. What did we do? Professional career, art form, multi-arts, outcomes. I developed new skills. This is the questions, blah, blah, blah. Key learnings. So key learnings for me for this will actually be able to provide more online opportunity because I think it's obviously greater than just the South Burnett learning these skills. And for those who know Trudy and Emma, you know this, we know we're talking about that as many opportunities for artists and artisans and community groups to learn how to do grants and just some of those tips from various people, because the grant monster comes in very, very different forms. And it's going to depend on the council. It's going to depend on the influence of people within council on the policy and what their priorities are. So make sure you keep up to date with, and it sounds like politics, but it is. Work out what their priorities are and invite councillors to everything you do. That's just one of a bit of a tip. So for the Logie, you know, make sure that you've got a councillor there. At any opportunity, get those photos, put them on Facebook, because that's going to influence, and it sounds terrible, that will influence the opportunities that you have, not necessarily through grants, but, you know, we've got to do this movies, people. Number of attendees. So these are all of the outcomes that I said. So this is the report, local priorities, financial summary. So see with this, and they should ask me for receipts. Unspent money, no. There, so the copy of the project receipts here. So again, that's when I was talking about if you've got a receipt for a nice pastries that we had on Saturday, put that receipt on a piece of paper, write all the information on that piece of paper, like glue that receipt on a piece of paper, write the information and photocopy it and scan it immediately, because I have seen receipts fade within a week. So make sure that you keep receipts and a double copy of that. So evidence of demonstrating project outcomes. So that also could be the recording of this, like saving the recording of this and uploading it. Declaration the same as last time. Next page, I'm going to be able to save this as a PDF. Blah, blah, blah. It's not going to let me go to the submit page. It'll just so there's the submit there. So I highlight that. So when all of that information is available and ready and you've done your application, that submit will be able to be done. So that'll pop up. So what I'll do now is I'll come back to here. We'll stop presenting. And how was that overflow of information? A quick 1 hour South Burnett RADF grant application. Oh, and my face is all gone fuzzy. How did we go? So I know that was fast and furious. Is there any questions from anyone?
Yeah. So with attendees, going way back where you talk about the number of attendees, can you do a range? Like, we're expecting 100 to 200 people, for example?
I would.
Or?
Yeah, you can do a range. I would say I would always try and go on the low figure so that, you under promise and over deliver. I'm a big fan of the under promise, over deliver. So if you know that you are really definitely going to get 50, but also make a really good Sorry, my dog just had a war about the balls. The dog ball. Yeah. So under promise, over deliver, but also, make sure that if you're applying for 3,000 and you say that, that's one person's going to benefit, you've got to really consider that on that assessment, the person that's assessing it, there might be another grant application that 100 people are going to benefit from it. So make that really good return of investment on that grant funding. So one of the examples that I had was for Steph, the Academy, and I said, okay, well, if you break up that you want to do a 6-month program of workshops, and there's 5 people in each workshop, but you're going to do 18 a semester. If you actually break it down and say, look, well, I'm applying for $3,000, for example, the exact figures are not in my head. All they're actually contributing is $50 a workshop. So it's not really 3,000. They're breaking it into the smaller figure. So we are applying for $50 a workshop, which is a total of. So I don't just go $3,000, break it down so that they can see the investment, that if it's $50 a workshop and 5 people are going, they're only subsidising $10 a person, which is nothing. It's nothing. But if you go straight up, well, I want $3,000, they'll go, oh, but what am I going to get for $3,000? So be really clear of what value these grant people are going to get from that funding. So yeah, good question, Matt. Anyone else got some questions? I'll just mute Joy. Yeah.
I have one with the Smarty Grant situation.
Yes, Kelly.
Do I need to do applying into Smarty Grants itself, or it should just come up? Like everyone said that they had their a Smarty Grants login or something. I've got the smartygrants.com.au up.
So you need to go to the relevant Smarty Grants page, so the South Burnett Regional Council one. So the Smarty Grants main page, you don't want to go mucking around with that. The only time you'll probably be going into that is if you are actually a grant giver, so the back end. So that's when you are managing a system. So in all of these grant applications, they will send you a link to the South Burnett Regional Council. So Smarty Grants is the software. The South Burnett Regional Council pays Smarty Grants a certain amount of money to run that software that's specific to South Burnett Regional Council. That back end is managed by staff at council, not Smarty Grants. Does that make sense?
I feel so.
Yeah,
so I should be just fine.
I haven't got my login yet.
All that link, yeah. Sorry to interrupt, the Kellys together. So yeah, the links for those grants will be on the appropriate website. So if it's Longreach Regional Council, the link will be, it'll have Smarty Grants, Longreach RC or South Burnett RC. So yeah, the Smarty Grants website is the sort of the main frame, but all of these grants are going to fall out of that because they're managed by each organisation that's paying Smarty Grants for the software and the their backup. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Julie, you had a question about accessing logos. So for logos,